by our friend Cam Salerno from 24/7 Sports. Cam, thanks. We appreciate the time as always. What does the clinching moment mean to you as someone who has followed this team his entire life when this inevitably happens?
Well, I think everyone thought it might happen on Sunday. Everyone thought it could happen the day before on Saturday if, different scenarios went right. But, it obviously didn't happen last night, where I think it was kind of like that Disney moment where, everyone thought they were going to clinch last night from the home crowd. Everyone was there. Tickets were getting expensive. Everyone, and when you walked in the arena last night, I think you felt that it could be the night. But to answer your question, Nick, I think it'd mean a lot to everyone in the city because obviously, like you said, I've grown up in Sacramento my entire life. I've lived here. I've probably the first professional sports team I watched growing up was the Kings, and I don't really remember when they were good. I think the last time they were in the playoffs, I was about 6 years old. And so I think for me personally, I think it'd mean a lot because I think it just would be cool for the city to have something to root for. And I've seen my fair share of good sporting events and moments in my life, but I think just it'd mean a lot more just because it is Sacramento. And I think more context too is the Kings were going to move 10 so years ago to either Seattle or Anaheim, and the city really rallied together and saved the team. So I think just, when you put everything kind of together and just how the season's gone, I think it would mean a lot, but it's not going to be that perfect moment like everyone thought it would where they clinch at home.
Harrison Barnes had said something after the game last night about, and I'm paraphrasing, not wanting to think the season's over when they've clinched a playoff spot and to sort of keep your eyes on the prize. As a fan, as somebody who covers this team, playoffs, that might have been the goal to start the season, but sights on bigger things now, right?
Well, honestly, I'd even back you up to say I think people would be happy with a play-in spot coming into the season.
Sure.
Everyone thought, if they get 40 wins, that'd be the goal. I think, and, if you look at how the West has been the last few years, the West has been better than the East, and I think this is kind of the year where things have really started to shift where the East is pretty much better. You can make an argument that, the third or fourth best team in the East would be probably the best team in the West outside the Nuggets. And so I would say, to answer your question, that I don't know. I think the Kings' goals have gotten bigger throughout the season. I think when you look at it, how the season's gone, where they've jumped up the standings and they went from a team that was a play-in contender to now, okay, they're probably going to be a playoff team, to now they're a top 3 seed in the West. And so I think the expectation is you win a first-round playoff series no matter who you face. And that could be the Warriors, that could be the Clippers, that could be the Timberwolves. And I think no matter who they play in the first round, it's going to be a really tough matchup. There's no cakewalks in the NBA, as you guys both know. But I think, when you look back at the season in a few months or whenever it ends, I think you can deem the season a success no matter how it goes, even if they do lose in the first round just because of expectations coming in. And I think expectations have obviously risen throughout the season, like I said, because they went from a team that was a play-in team to now a team that's third in the West and is going to host a first-round playoff series or have that home court advantage. And so I would say, definitely expectations have gotten larger, but I hope fans at the end of the season kind of, look back and say, no matter what happens, it was a really successful year. And obviously, this team is pretty young, and they can still make future playoff runs, and we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason if they're going to go out and re-sign Harrison Barnes or look to upgrade from that position. So I think at the end of the day, I think Kings fans should keep in perspective that, yes, no matter what happens, this is a good year. But also, it's kind of the expectation where they, do win a playoff series in some people's eyes because they are going to be favored as a number 3 seed in the West or wherever they end up. So I think I'm kind of mixed as far as, if they lose in the first round, would it be disappointing for a lot of people? I think so, just because the expectations have risen. But like I said, they were not really supposed to be here at the start of the season. So if they do make it out of the first round and even make a little run, I think fans should be more than satisfied.
Cam Salerno is with us here, Cattles and Ramie, on this Tuesday Sactown Sports. Cam, are the Wolves just a bad matchup for the Kings?
I think the Wolves would be a terrible matchup for the Kings just because Jay McDaniels on De'Aaron Fox. Fox was getting his in the first half, but they didn't even have Karl Anthony Towns to, make the argument who the best player in that team is with Ant or Cat. Ant is the superstar. He he didn't even have a good game last night and they still won. I mean, Rudy Gobert is, I have my mixed opinions on Rudy just as far as how the trade went. And, personally, if I were Utah, I'd be very satisfied with how that trade went just because of all the first round picks they got. And also, too, Walker Kessler is looking like, he's going to be a really, really good player in this league. I mean, he had 31 points against Sacramento earlier last week. And so I think they are a bad matchup just because of size-wise. I mean, the Timberwolves can shoot the ball, and the Kings have been really kind of bad at defensive rotations. In that first matchup against the Timberwolves in Sacramento, I mean, they got a bunch of open threes. Not as much last night, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Kings' defense isn't going to be great, and the way they're going to win games is they're going to outscore teams just because they have a historically good offense. So I would say the Wolves would be a bad matchup, but like I said, no matter who they play, it's going to be a really tough matchup. If it's the Warriors or it's the Timberwolves or one of the teams like the Lakers and the Pelicans slide up to 6. So I think no matter who they play, it's going to be a tough matchup. But honestly, like I was going back and forth today, I think Timberwolves would probably be a tougher matchup than the Warriors at this point.
Is there a favorite matchup that you see out there that you like?
Ooh, I mean, if you would ask me probably a week or two ago, I would say Mavs just because I think they can beat them and I think they can outscore them. And, obviously, I think the difference is, when you look at teams like the Warriors, I mean, they have so much playoff experience. I mean, Steph is Steph, and they've been there before a million times. And I think I saw something that, like, they haven't lost to a Western Conference team, I forget what the exact stat was, but they're so and so against Western Conference teams, like in the playoffs, and so that's a tough matchup just because of the championship pedigree that they have. And Timberwolves is a bad matchup because they are just looking really sharp right now. I mean, obviously they have Ant and Rudy and Cat when he's back, and they have good defense. But I mean, obviously, who knows who's going to jump as far as, are the Lakers or the Pelicans going to make a jump to 6? I mean, it's honestly crazy. I've never seen anything like this as far as, heading to the last few weeks of the season, like 6 places separated by like 2 games in 11th place. So, I mean, the Mavericks could jump up, which, who knows what's going to happen, but there is going to be a team or two who doesn't make the playoffs or even the play-in. I think that's going to be disappointing to a lot of fans. And so who knows who that's going to be, but I would say Mavericks, but I don't know if they're going to make that jump because they're not playing good right now at all.
Cam, we appreciate the time as always, my man. Let's do it again soon. Be well.
Yes, sir. Talk to him.
There goes Cam Salerno from 24/7 Sports. Of course, Cam was on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Yeah, I mean, look, you look at some of these teams, the Timberwolves, we'll talk about them